Hey guys, I'm Emery Gay. I wanted to go ahead and talk to you about the Dram Shop Act today. I'm going to cover the ethical dimensions, implications, and problems considering this act. Okay, for starters, I'm just going to state it as it is, just plain and simple. It's a statute or case law in 38 states which makes a business who sells alcoholic drinks or a host who serves liquor to a drinker who is obviously intoxicated or close to it strictly liable to anyone injured by the drunken patron or guest. It is often hard to prove that the liquor bought or served was the specific cause of an accident, such as an automobile accident while driving home, since there's always an intervening cause, namely the drunk. Okay, to go about this a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and explain this a little more in detail. The statute just says that the businesses that sells or serve alcohol to a recipient that is clearly intoxicating or nearing that point is strictly liable to anyone injured by the drunken patron. This also includes the damages that they do cause. It's often hard to prove that the alcohol in question, which is the alcohol that the company served this patron, was the specific cause of the accident. This is because, of course, after driving, you would think that the drunk patron would be the biggest cause. And of course that goes to show here. In New Mexico, there's actually certain guidelines that go along with the Dram Shop Act. It just goes to say that a person sold or served alcohol while intoxicated is not allowed to collect any damages or relief. This makes sense because even though there are businesses that are selling alcohol to them, which are making their deception and reaction time distorted, they are still responsible. They're still adults. They still understand that drinking and driving is going to cause accidents. It also says that no licensee is charged with the knowledge of previous drinking. This is saying that if someone was drinking at home and then came into a restaurant, unless there's clear signs that they've been drinking, they can't be held with the knowledge that these patrons come in already having alcohol before. Okay? This specific case, El Chico versus Pool, was the first case that led to the development of the Dram Shop Act. El Chico restaurant sold drinks to Renee Science. It was happy hour, 2 for 1, so he definitely took part in this offer. After leaving El Chico, Science was driving at high speeds and ran a red light. At this same intersection, Larry Poole was taking a left in front of Science. He was not doing anything illegal. Science was the one that ran the red light and unfortunately crashed into Poole's car. Poole had to then be transported to Herman Hospital by Life Flight LD helicopter. Unfortunately, Poole did not make it. He actually died upon arrival at the hospital. Like I said, this case did go and help the development of the Dram Shop Act. The courts decided that since the times are changing, that it also required a revision of the Dram Shop regulations. They also noted that an intoxicated person, by definition, is not an able-bodied or able-minded person. This, again, goes into the liability. If they're not in capable minds and a capable body, they aren't really held fully liable. So this just helps to evenly distribute the liability for these damages and accidents. The court decided that due to the frequency of drunk driving accidents, the defendant could no longer plead that it was unforeseeable. If there's drinking, there's usually driving involved. So when this happens, there's plenty of accidents, there's crashes. We hear it on the news, we see it in newspapers, we see plenty of these kinds of accidents happening. So it's no longer unforeseeable in this day and age. They also go to say that alcohol distorts perception, slows reaction, and impairs motor skills. All of these are vitally important when it comes to driving a motor vehicle. It's motor skills. You have to make sure that you can react on time. Just all of these three things go into driving. So if it distorts it, if it slows, if it impairs, then their driving won't be safe or legal, as shown in the case before. Okay, they also cut out the guidelines for liability for the business. The licensee has a duty of care to the public not to sell alcohol to the patron when the licensee knows or should know, this part is very important, should know that they are intoxicated. There are huge signs if you can tell that someone is intoxicated. I'll go ahead and talk about that later on in the presentation. But if a normal person can see that a patron is intoxicated, then these servers and businesses should not be selling alcohol to that patron. Because they have this duty to the public, they are held liable for any definite or proximal damages for their lack of care. Okay, as I said, we're going to go ahead and talk about the effects and effects of driving on how many drinks that it takes to get to these signs. About 2, there's not very many noticeable signs. It's usually just the drinker feels it. So at 2, there might be some stuff that you can see, like loss of judgment, but this affects driving by decline in visual functions and a decline in ability to perform 2 tasks at the same time. After about 3 drinks, there's exaggerated behavior, impaired judgment, lowered alertness. All of these are signs that a server or person could see as signs of intoxication. This affects driving by difficulty steering, reduced ability to track moving objects, reduced response to emergency driving situations. As seen in this case, he could not react to the emergency situation. He didn't stop, he didn't slow down, just kept going because he was not able to respond to these emergency driving situations. After about 4 drinks, this is where you can't really fight if they were intoxicated or not. This is all for a 160-pound middle-aged gentleman. So it will vary upon different people. Some people take their alcohol better. Some people, this is just a standard that we can go off of. After about 4 drinks, there's muscle coordination becomes poor. The balance can be seen as a little shaky. Speech, vision, reaction time, judgment, self-control, reasoning, and memory are impaired. These are huge signs when it comes to serving alcohol. If you can tell that their self-control, their reasoning, if their speech is becoming a little slurred, then they're obviously intoxicated. This affects their driving by speed control. Again, this is what Mr. Size was having trouble with. He couldn't control his speed. He was going way too fast. He ran that red light. Reduced information processing, impaired perception, all things that go towards the effects on driving. After about 5 drinks, there's slurred speech, poor coordination, and slowed thinking. if they're taking a little too much time, it's not because they're indecisive. It's because they've been drinking. If they have slurred speech, they've been drinking. There's definite signs to tell if someone's intoxicated or not. So they really can't plead that they didn't know after a certain point. This affects driving by reduced ability to maintain lane position and brake appropriately. Again, this is what Mr. Size was having trouble with. He didn't slow down, he didn't brake, he was having a hard time understanding that red means stop. He just went ahead and hit Mr. Larry Poole. After 7, this is as far as it goes. It goes ahead and says major loss of balance. That's the biggest one that we can see. If they're swaying, if they're needing something to keep them up, they've had quite a bit to drink, and there's no reason that a company or a server should not know that they've been drinking. It substantially impairs in vehicle control, attention to driving tasks, and in necessary visual and auditory information processing. Again, the red light, stop, speeding. There's plenty of ways that people should have known that he was not capable of driving that night. The ethical dilemmas of this new Dram Shop Act, granted, the intoxicated person is not allowed to collect damages, but they're also not held at a very high responsibility. Before, they were the only ones responsible. Now it's only the businesses responsible. We need to go ahead and find a system that gives punishment to everyone that deserves it. There's no reason for businesses to take a fall for these people when they're making the choice, when they're adults making the choice to drink and drive and cause these accidents. We're all human beings. We all suffer consequences for our actions. We're all adults. We need to accept and deal with these we're all adults. We need to deal with these consequences accordingly. And that goes ahead and wraps up my presentation. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I got all my sources from these sites. And I really hope you guys have a wonderful day.